I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the issue is impeachment.
We are better than that. Adjourned.
The public hearings are adjourned for now. What did we learn? And are any Republicans convinced? Plus, the issue is another Democratic debate.
I thought you might have been high when you said it.
Did this shake up the race? And what did our focus group of undecided voters think? That and more with our panel. Radio host Stephanie Miller on the left, conservative commentator Michael Reagan on the right. Plus, Giano Caldwell is here to talk about his new book, Taken for Granted, why he thinks Democrats don't do enough for Black Americans. The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. It's been an especially busy week in politics, so we brought the A-team, and we begin with the big issue of impeachment. This week, multiple witnesses testified publicly that there was a quid pro quo between the Trump administration and Ukraine. In their view, the president was insistent that Ukraine announce an investigation into the Bidens in order to get military aid from the U.S. These witnesses allege that the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was essentially running a separate foreign policy channel on behalf of the president. So what do we do now? Let's talk about that and more with our panel, both of them returning champions. Stephanie Miller is here. She is, of course, the host of The Stephanie Miller Show. You can listen to her Mondays through Fridays from 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific on Sirius XM Channel 127 and at stephaniemiller.com. Michael Reagan is a contributor to Newsmax, an author, a motivational speaker. He's the president of the Reagan Legacy Foundation, where he honors the work of his late father, President Ronald Reagan. Of course, Stephanie Miller is the daughter of the former VP nominee on the Republican side, so you guys have that in common, right? At least there's that.
Yeah. Political royalty. He brings most of it.
Yeah.
I do want to say Michael is my mom's favorite Reagan because my mom is Fox News watching Trump voting 96-year-old. And so last time I had your brother Ron on my show, I told him, who is not a fan of Trump, I told her what he said, and she went, what does Michael think?
Yeah.
She made a face. She's like, Ron Jr.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out what Michael thinks in a second. But Stephanie, let's begin with you. The case for impeachment. Why should the president be impeached?
I mean, this was overwhelming. I mean, at some point on Fox News, Ken Starr said, it is time for Republicans to do what Barry Goldwater did and go to the White House and tell him it's over. 70% of the American people know he did something wrong. This is before this week. We're at almost 60% for impeachment. This is before this week. 51% impeach and remove. Another 6% impeach but don't remove. Those numbers are overwhelming. I mean, of course, it doesn't look like the Senate will convict, but never underestimate Republicans and Mitch McConnell's cowardice. If these numbers continue to go like this, and he's going to bring down the whole party. Peggy Noonan, the well-known wild-eyed socialist, just wrote a piece. About there is just no question. This case was devastating.
Right. So Peggy Noonan was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, wrote in the Wall Street Journal that the Republicans don't really have a case against impeachment. Ron, you say, though, that these are impeachment follies. What's your rebuttal?
My mom is only watching this today because you're on. So
Well, the reality is, it is impeachment follies in so many ways, because the end result is the Democrats can vote to impeach because they have to do it for their base, like Stephanie and whatever. The Republicans are not going to convict him in the Senate. So this is all a game that's being played out in Washington right now because it's going to end up going nowhere. And as far as quid pro quos, this has been going on since the beginning of time. I said to somebody, so how did Joe Stalin get, Poland and Eastern Europe? What was that all about? Or you could go through a myriad of different quid pro quos that have happened between presidents in the past. There are people who don't like Trump, yes, but guess what? They like the choices of the Democrats even worse.
So this is not quid pro quo. This is bribery. This is extortion, and almost every credible legal expert has said so.
But
you can call it whatever you want. This is not something that happens all the time.
To get the word bribery out, they had a focus group. And they did the focus group. Here's a bunch of names. Which one do you like? And the ones that, the bribery is the number.
Whatever you call it, though, Michael, are you concerned at all about the substance of what happened, which is essentially the president telling Ukraine,
I think it was stupid to make the
this.
phone call. Yeah. There's a lot of things I think he's done.
I thought it was perfect. Isn't the talking point that it was perfect?
I'm not the president. I'm speaking about the president. The reality, I think the phone call was wrong.
Yeah.
I thought it was a silly, stupid thing for him to do.
Yeah.
But does it rise to impeachment and you take him out of office? If we're going to start listening to conversations that presidents have with leaders of other countries, we'll impeach every president from here on out, and we'll go back and start impeaching them in reverse. I don't think it raises to the level of impeaching him for
Then
that
what does?
conversation.
Then what does? What does? Using taxpayer money to try to meddle in an upcoming election after already conspiring to meddle in the last election. What
He
then?
didn't
What
conspire.
does?
He didn't meddle in the last election.
It is not
Where's
his.
the proof of that?
Oh my God.
So
This is all one story. Russia
Yeah.
and the Ukraine is one story, and as Fiona Hill so brilliantly said, she begged Republicans, stop doing Russian talking points with these ridiculous debunked conspiracy theories about Ukraine.
So let's big picture this, because we both seem to agree that the Democrats are going to impeach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see any scenario where the Republicans vote at all to
If these
vote in the
numbers-
Senate?
No.
You really
I'm
think
gonna
so?
be-
You
I'm
think
gonna
that
be
they're going to
really-
vote to convict and remove him?
Alex, I'm going to be really interested to see what the numbers are after this week, because the numbers I quoted are before all of this completely devastating testimony that even many
Read the new
Republicans,
numbers.
Chris Wallace, Ken Starr, people
the
on
new
Fox
numbers.
News said this
Wisconsin-
week was devastating.
Before the hearings, the president was losing to everybody in Wisconsin. He's now ahead of every Democrat in
one poll
Wisconsin.
in one state.
Well, see, you
Most
make
of
2
the
points.
polls,
You
he's-
make one
most
point
of
where
all
you
the
quote
polls, he's-
polls.
he's
I
losing to
quote
the
it-
top
I quote a
5
poll.
Democratic
My
candidates.
poll doesn't count, but your polls do.
And we got to admit, Wisconsin may be the most important state of all in the
He's
upcoming
ahead in
election,
the
right?
polls in Wisconsin.
one
He's also
state.
ahead with independents right now. He's up 6 points of independents based on this who don't want to see him impeached.
Well, I guess we've come together in that segment. Let's take a pause, though. We're bringing some music. We're bringing in Billie Eilish, who made music history this week. She's the youngest Grammy nominee in the major categories at just 17 years old. Congratulations to her and her team. Up next, we're talking Democratic debates with our focus group of undecided voters and these two. Stay with us. More of the issue is right after this. Bad Guy. This is your favorite song, right? That's what you blast? Yeah.
I welcome the challenge of connecting with black voters in America who don't yet know me.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg trying to expand his support with African-American voters during this week's Democratic debate. This week, we watched that debate with a focus group of undecided voters.
I do have the experience of sometimes feeling like a stranger in my own country.
As an African-American, what did you make of that?
Well, honestly, I really appreciated the way that he answered that question. When you compare black and gay, a lot of times that can go south.
He could not have articulated more better without disrespecting the struggles of the people of color, of African Americans.
So raise your hand if you think more of Pete Buttigieg after tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody. So he improved his position with everybody.
Yeah.
Many of you said you really liked Cory Booker tonight. He had a moment that I'm sure will be played over and over again.
I hear him literally say that I don't think we should legalize marijuana. I thought you might have been high when you said it.
Raise your hand if, through this process, your opinion of Biden has gotten better.
No.
Raise your hand if it's gotten worse.
Neither for me.
Who's the best candidate to
Biden.
actually beat Trump?
Biden.
Biden.
That's unanimous, yeah.
You all think that Biden still, even though you don't.
Still.
Interesting. So they think that Biden's the strongest nominee, even though they don't like Biden as much. Back with our panel, Stephanie Miller, Michael Reagan. What did you guys, Michael, start with you. What did you think of the debates this week?
Biden does well because he is trying to hold that middle ground, and everybody else is so far to the left, and they know that doesn't have a chance against the President of the United States. So I think that's why Biden is where he is. I will tell you this, though. If Biden would have run in 2016, most likely would have won because Republicans were looking for an off-ramp from Donald Trump in 2016. He didn't give it to them, and they weren't going to vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
So he missed his shot, and the party passed him by between 2016 and today.
He might not have won the nomination against Hillary in 2016, though. She had a lot going for her then. Stephanie, what do you think?
I don't know where you're getting that nobody can beat Trump, because literally in pretty much every national poll, our top 5 candidates all beat Trump. And I think there's a good chance he'll be in prison anyway. Here's my point, Alex. I don't know. Honestly, he may not be the nominee.
Yeah.
If this gets as bad as I think it's going to get, I think there is also a chance he's going to resign. He's going to be forced to. I will vote blue no matter who, Alex, as I've said before. That being said, I'm a Liz Warren and Kamala girl. I mean, to me, they are without a doubt the most experienced in terms of, Kamala, as we know, ran the second largest Justice Department in the United States. Elizabeth Warren created the Consumer Financial Protection Department. I think they have the best experience, the best plans.
No, the fact is, most people in your party have real trouble. That's why others are getting in right now.
No,
there's not people dropping out. There's more getting into the race.
He could find somewhere. You're right.
They
He
see
could
a party
find a
in
country with
disarray.
extradition. So I'm not. It's
and
not necessarily
the reason the reason the mayor's doing well is because he's likable. He's most likable, more likable than anybody else on that panel right now, and that's why he's moving up in Iowa.
Would he be the strongest nominee?
Oh, I don't think he'd be the strongest nominee. He's got 1% of the black vote.
So who's the strongest?
He's the mayor of a tiny little town, not as big as this table.
Who's the strongest nominee?
But he's nice.
Who's
the strongest nominee?
The toughest person to run against, if you're...
I think the toughest person to run about would still be Joe Biden.
Yeah, and Stephanie, what do you think?
I think it's early. I'm
He's
curious.
not in the race
I'm
yet.
curious why Liz and Kamala aren't likable. Do they not smile enough?
No, Kamala, she blew it out in the first debate, which brings up busing. Everybody went like, huh?
Yeah, and her poll numbers shot
and
way
they
up.
died ever since then.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
I'm just saying, mostly Republican when they say unlikable means has vagina.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
we're gonna leave it there.
You have one?
I do have one. Did you just ask me if I have a vagina?
Okay, we're going to stop. All right, we're going to continue our Grammys theme. Taylor Swift nominated for writing Lover. Up next, one of our favorite lovers is here. Giano Caldwell is here. He's got a new book. He's going to talk about taking for granted, defying some stereotypes, being a black conservative. We want to thank our panel, though. Stephanie Miller, Michael Reagan. Nicely done, you both. Thank you very much.
I do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. More of the issue is right after this.
If you think the Republicans are not very obviously agitating racially in an effort to win over the white vote?
Listen, it sounds like you're getting your facts from the Daily Onion.
Giano Caldwell debating Hassan Piker here on The Issue. It's probably our craziest debate of all. The Fox News political analyst is one of our most frequent guests here. He's the author of a brand new book that's already a top seller on Amazon. Here is the cover. It's called Taken for Granted: How Conservatism Can Win Back the Americans That Liberalism Failed. It's been endorsed by everybody from Ann Coulter to Ben Shapiro to, check this out, the President of the United States himself, who tweeted out his full endorsement to more than 66 million followers. Giano Caldwell, welcome back to The Issue Is, and congratulations on the book, my friend.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so your bottom line thesis is a lot about politics, but the sort of the core of the book is a lot just about you and your personal experience, right? And this kind of crazy life story you have of growing up on the south side of Chicago, poor, your mother addicted to drugs, and sort of the struggle for you to find your identity in that process.
Yeah, and it was a really tough journey. I grew up, as you mentioned, on the south side of Chicago, extraordinarily poor, lights, gas, and water off at the same time. Mom addicted to crack cocaine. And that was actually the catalyst for me jumping into politics. I think of one afternoon, it was a Saturday, I was riding with my grandfather through an area of Chicago called Inglewood, which is one of the hardest hit areas in terms of the violence. And we were riding by and I saw this lady who I just knew was my mom. She looked drugged up and beat down. And I began to tear up. And my grandfather saw it. And I said, what can I do to prevent this from happening? At that point, I realized it wasn't my mother. And he pointed me in the direction of politics, the elected officials. They can provide grant funding for those who want to be rehabilitated. So the very next week, I started volunteering for my local alderman.
And you assumed that you should be a Democrat because
of course, that's what I was
everybody in Chicago that looked like you pretty much were.
Or across the country.
And then you started to think this party isn't for me.
Absolutely, and it came.
Why?
It came from a conversation I was having with an African-American fellow on the street corner one day. I pontificated everything that I heard in the community. Republicans are racist. They don't care about poor people, black people, that kind of thing. And he challenged me on some of my viewpoints. But whenever I'm challenged, as you know, even on this show, I go research so I can have a stronger argument for later. And I realized the party was started in 1854 in opposition to the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which wanted to expand slavery. And all these different areas of civil rights couldn't have passed without Republican support. It amazed me. I saw a conservative ideology, religious freedom. I've come from a very religious family, entrepreneur. It was amazing, but it was also, after I saw myself as that person, I felt extraordinarily depressed, because how could I be one of these people? The lie that I had been told, that Republicans are racist. It didn't matter who you were. You can be a good person.
Yeah.
If you had Republican in front of you, I thought you were a racist, because that's what I was taught.
And so you write about the fact that it was almost like coming out of the closet for a gay person. You felt like you had to come out of the closet being a Republican.
I wouldn't know what that is.
It was uncomfortable for you.
It was very uncomfortable.
You said you were called an Uncle Tom. You were called a House N-word. You were called all different names in the process.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I still get that kind of hate today. It's traumatic, but at the same time, I can't run away from who I truly am. I am a conservative. I'm a proud conservative. And I believe my voice, especially having a platform on Fox News Channel to speak before millions of people with very important issues that comes up, whether it be Charlottesville or anything else, it matters and it resonates and people hear it.
Well, I'm thankful. Let's talk about Charlottesville, because that was an instance where you did not agree with what the president did.
Absolutely.
A lot of people feel that the president was racist in that situation. You were brought on maybe to defend him, and then you ended up saying this.
I'm sorry that this is where we are right now, and I hope the president learns a lesson from his press conference on yesterday. It's disturbing.
Giano, these are very sensitive topics.
Why was that so emotional for you? And do you believe what a lot of Democrats believe, which is that President Trump is a racist?
It was President Trump in the 2016 election as candidate Trump was someone who I defended where I believed appropriate. When he would mention black issues, it resonated with me because we haven't had a Democrat or Republican who spoke about it in the way that he did. And I know people felt that there was insensitivity in it. What do you have to lose? I know that there was individuals who felt that what he said about Chicago wasn't true, that you can walk down the street and get shot. Well, I happen to have a different set of experiences where you can legitimately walk down the street in the city of Chicago and be shot.
And your brother,
my little brother was in a car with two of his friends during Memorial Day weekend 2017 when two men walked up and shot the car 25 times. He lived, but his best friend died in his arms. I've seen it time and time again. So with this particular president, what I can say about him now is in 2 to 3 years, he's accomplished more for African Americans than any president in my lifetime, certainly. He's been the most impactful president from a policy standpoint for African Americans.
Of course, we're looking now at some video of a documentary you made for Fox Nation on Chicago violence, where you went back to Chicago and documented some of that. That's quite a statement that you're making. And
I know
most people on the left will say Barack Obama, the first African-American president, way more important for African-Americans
I think
than President Trump.
Yeah, certainly, like you want to aspire to be. I think it broke the barrier mentally for people who believed that it wasn't possible. I congratulate Barack Obama on that, absolutely. But when we're talking about policy, talking about the First Step Act, thousands of people released from jail, 90% of them black, the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans. Since 2016 up until now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics said that there's been over 1.3 million jobs created for African Americans, funded for HBCUs, opportunity zones, jail reform. These are issues that directly impact black people. No other president that I've seen or have knowledge of has done so much for African Americans specifically than President Trump has. Now, I can agree that the rhetoric is out of control at times, is insensitive. I can agree on those things. But what matters at the end of the day is if my cousin has a job. And certainly I can say that under President Trump, they now do.
We're gonna have to pause for a moment, but as we go to break, some music you chose from your favorite artist, Kanye West.
Yeezy.
Up next, Giano plays personal issues, and maybe he'll teach me a dance move or two in the meantime. What's your move to just back and forth? Looks better when you. Next week, our Thanksgiving week show is all about gratitude. With us, baseball star Ryan Braun talking about the millions he's raised through California Strong, and our own Amanda Salas is back to talk about beating cancer. Back now with Giano Caldwell. Next week's show all about gratitude. You're grateful, I'm sure, for your new book, Taken for Granted. All right, so let's do something called personal issues. You've been on the show so many times.
I have a lot of those.
But you've never been, so do I. You know many of them. This is where we're going to put 30 seconds up on the clock, and we're going to get to know you a little bit better. Okay? So, Giano, who is the best rapper of all time?
Kanye West.
What's your favorite book?
Taken for Granted.
Oh, my God. Dream vacation spot?
I love Italy.
Favorite newscaster?
Elex Michaelson!
There we go, Elex. Favorite athlete of all time?
Michael Jordan, I guess.
Okay. Favorite restaurant?
Jesus, anything in Italy.
Favorite liberal?
Who would that be? I don't know. Donald Trump?
Who's your role model?
My grandfather.
Yeah, why is that?
He taught me about politics. In addition to that, he was one of the individuals who always told me never to give up. Someone said something negative about me, he would tell me it wasn't true. He inspired me, and he still does. He's my biggest hero.
Awesome. All right, again, that book is called Taken for Granted. Congratulations on all the success so far. We're going to play some more Kanye, because he's your favorite.
Yeah.
Power, because you're a very powerful guy.
Oh, wow, that's so nice of you. You're dope, my man.
Congratulations.
My man.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody watching at home. Have a great one. We'll see you next week for more of The Issue Is. Here, now we really can see it.
Do I need to stand up and do it?
Let's see it. Let's see it.
There it is, right there.